All right, so today we are going to be reacting to Is It Okay for Navajo People to Love America by Navajo Traditional Teachings. Now, as you can see, I'm subscribed to this channel, right? I actually do quite like listening to this gentleman actually talk because oftentimes, the guy has some genuine bits of wisdom that is like, oh, you know what? That's actually a really good point that people from anywhere can actually use, right? And sometimes I just learn a little bit about like Navajo culture and history, which I've always had a bit of an anthropological interest, right? So just an interesting confluence of ideas. I have reacted to a previous video from this gentleman talking about why he refuses to use the term Native American, and I had a lot to say about that because I recognize this Marxist spook of like, again, using language to obfuscate instead of clarify. If anyone wants to actually watch it, hold on, let me pull it up to show where it's actually at. It's on the channel, unlike my video calling out Iranian pedophiles. That one YouTube did not, the Iranian pedophile video, me complaining about the fact that YouTube took it down. You can actually watch the one about Native American identity in, on my channel. It's actually still up. Let's see. It's a little back. I think I wasn't doing the musics yet when I was making that. Yep, right here. The remember who you are, not indigenous. Don't lose your cultural identity to identity. Navajo traditional teaching reaction. So now about an hour and 30 minutes I got out of that. And it was like a 6-minute video. So if y'all want to listen to me talk about, again, Native American, European, and fucking like Asian and African identity, there I go. That's my conversation about lineage and culture right there. But let's get into this. Let's see what this gentleman has to say. I actually have not pre-watched this one before. I did pre-watch a little bit of the previous Navajo traditional teaching video though.
I love this country.
Based.
Because in it is the Navajo Nation, and I love my people.
Based. Okay, so I'm going to pause this because people from this particular culture, right, oftentimes the American Indian cultures, they actually use the terms country and nation correctly, right? A lot of times other speakers of English will use the two terms as if they're synonymous. They're not. They refer to two different things, right? A country is a location. A nation is a people, right? So when they talk about the Navajo Nation, they're talking about the people of the Dene tribe, right? Whereas when you talk about, again, the Navajo land, that would be the country they're particularly talking about, right? The country of the Navajo. When you talk about America as a country, you're talking about, again, the physical location of the United States. When you're talking about the American nation, you're talking about the people of the country. Right. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine. I see people use these terms interchangeably, and it just confuses the conversation because then it equates people to land, and it's like, no, these are two very different ideas. It's the same thing that gets me annoyed when people talk about the state of the United States, right? The government versus, again, the nation or the country. These are very different things that need to be, again, identified as separate things.
Kejähti astattiinko atatasto beivotsi hikitikat behoteist aako tikat naut hosateliado penina tätä akitokkaa no patahan.
I'm gonna skip this part. Again, if I could understand what he's saying here, I would totally just sit here and listen to it, but I can't provide any commentary on something I literally don't understand.
250 years now coming up that the United States of America came into existence. And over the years, of course, we have accumulated in the 50 individual states that make up the United States of America. And there is a Constitution. There are a number of documents, the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence, the preamble. And all these documents are there for us to review and to really look at and to understand, what is being given to us and presented to us.
Yeah, that's your cultural heritage, right? These documents tell you where you come, again, where your ancestors come from, even if it's just like your inheritance through effectively adoption. If you're, again, becoming an American citizen through naturalization, it's effectively a cultural version of adoption, right? Yeah, these are important. So it's like when people throw these to the side and they pretend to be conservative, it's like, yeah, no, you're not really, because you're not really paying attention to where we come from, and you're not really paying attention to what made everything work. Let's see. Keanu says, I prefer community over friendships. It's more truthful in a way and can't be broken over stupid shit. Oh, community can be broken over stupid shit. I can tell you that right now. In fact, we might be seeing certain communities, politically speaking, break apart over really stupid shit. Kura says, I don't know, I'm Roanoke Cherokee, so I don't speak Navajo. That's fair. Also, I hear, hello, Kura, right? Fair enough, Doc.
And all these things happen to us as a nation of people. Now, I say us because we are still here. And it is that we are here because the result of what took place back then. And over the years, of course, we have become a people, we the people, and we have individual rights that are protected by the Constitution, our individual rights. But it is important to understand that those rights actually apply only to us, and they end right here at the tip of our nose. And we can't infringe on other people's rights, and we can't force anybody as far as the rights that we understand for ourselves.
I will say, well, he's accurate on this. I will also have to clarify that if you pay attention philologically to the documents, right, you actually get in deep into how the words are being used. When it says "we the people," right, in like the Declaration of Independence, right? Who is the people? The people aren't just a nebulous global community, right? The people are very specifically those who actually have a tie to the land, right? The jurisdiction, culturally speaking, is the United States, right? So it's not just like someone comes in here and then all of a sudden, without any kind of naturalization process, they're part of we the people. No. We the people are the Americans, right? Those with the jurisdiction of the United States. They don't encompass, for example, any illegal immigrant that comes in. They're not part of we the people, right? Anyone who, for example, is just here visiting, they're not part of we the people, right? It is the body of the nation itself. The nation is we the people. So anyone outside the nation is not part of the we the people in that preamble. Just saying, right? And I have to say this because, again, it has become a customary thing to not actually read the foundational documents against each other, which is how you're supposed to read them, right? Like I've pointed out, it's like the Constitution is not a self-justifying document. All right, the Constitution is instituted under the premise that it has the authority to be implemented in the first place. So then you have to ask the question, where did that authority come from? Well, we already see it in the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence is the document that actually outlines where the authority of the American to secede from the British Empire actually comes from. And it roots that in nature's law and nature's God. So there you go. You want to have a country that's founded under God, it's literally right there in the Declaration of Independence, which is a more important document than the Constitution of the United States, because the Constitution only has authority because the Declaration actually gives it the foundation to have authority in the first place. But anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Another issue is that, again, I pointed this out, I think, in the last Native American video, that you could tell the jurisdiction thing, like with the whole, again, the whole idea of like birthright citizenship never made any sense, right? Was it Juan Kim Ark? There was an old court case with a child who was born to Chinese, parents in the United States, but this was when the Qing dynasty was still around. Most people don't realize the Qing dynasty existed well into American history, right? But there was the whole question of, okay, so do they qualify as citizens, right? And the answer was absolutely not. This child does not qualify as a citizen because the jurisdiction that they fall under is actually not the United States, it's actually the Qing dynasty, right? So because of that, they are not born citizen, they're not given citizenship at birth, because again, there's a conflicting jurisdiction concern here. And we could also tell this because, like, again, many Native Americans aren't actual. Again, it's hard to say because, like, I was taught Native American growing up in school when I should be saying Amerindian, right? Many Amerindians are not actually U.S. citizens either, because the Constitution very clearly classifies them as a domestic dependent nation. So they're a separate nation that is, again, under the care of Congress. And there's a lot of problems that come around with this, right? And we have an entire bureau involved in Indian affairs. It's called oftentimes the Bureau of Bossing Indians Around, right? Yeah, if you want to know a lot of the impoverishment of the Native Americans and their reservations, a lot of it is honestly because of like federal meddling. So, but anyway, that's besides the point. I just wanted to clarify what we the people stand for, right? Just to be clear, it's the nation of the United States. That's what we the people stand for. It does not stand for like anyone who just fucking like swims across the river to cross the border, right? It doesn't refer to anyone who's just here by happenstance. It refers to a, you know, again, a cultural body. It refers to the people that constitute the nation of the United States. Most reservations are ignored. Yeah. That you're not wrong there. Let's see. Kura says legal citizens are the people. Exactly. Not any Tom, Dick, or Harry that step on the soil. Precisely.
But it is that this is a great country. And myself, my own position is I love the Constitution of the United States. I love the United States of America. And I think I share the feelings of our people who served in the United States Marine Corps during World War II as code talkers. We really don't understand how much those people sacrificed to do what they did, and what they left behind, and what they went to defend. I know from my own experience, when I enlisted in the mid-60s, I raised my hand to the square. I took an oath
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
I took an oath.
I actually really like that they have acting in these now. That's actually really cool.
To defend and protect the Constitution of the United States of America.
Yeah, this is one of the things that really annoys me too about like about the whole idea of like, again, oh my god. There are so many people who go into the military and then they will never actually read their Constitution, right? It frustrates me because it's like, again, your oath is to defend the Constitution and the people of the United States, right? And it's just frustrating. I remember having, when I was in the military, having conversations about the Constitution, and basic literacy about the Constitution was few and far between, to be perfectly honest, with some of the people there. Some of them knew it very well. Some of them knew it way better than I did. But still, it's like, it's just wildly frustrating.
And I was never released from that oath. To this day, I still feel like I'm obligated to live up to my promise to the American people and to this country. I know that they have had some rough times and had to make some hard decisions so that they could still be here. And our old people, we have a lot to thank. They made a lot of decisions in that would allow us to survive, to be here in this day. And but there are a lot of things that we still have to overcome, a lot of challenges in that are still down over the horizon and coming this way.
Yeah, and one of those challenges is that the United States it's not an ethno state. It's a propositional state, right? It's the United States is founded upon a creed, and if people don't believe in the creed, then again there is no nation. because again, it is the belief in that creed that created the nation in the first place, right? So the spell that makes the United States work only works insofar as the people of the United States actually believe in, again, the magic of the United States in the first place. And we did allow, again, Marxists to invade and co-opt our entire education system to propagandize our own children against what we believe, right? And we all the parents were asleep at the wheel about this, right? And so, yeah, I mean, sure, we do have the elders to thank for all the for the good things that they left us. We also have the elders to thank for all the negligence that they left us with as well. It is rather infuriating, and I think I have an episode about boomers in particular that I forgot to record, and I'm reminded to record now. Patriot Gestalt, hello there. Yep. Let's see. Play Astronomical says you need to take an oath to become a citizen. It frustrates me how much people do not take that seriously. Exactly, right? You need to make an actual commitment, right? You need to make an actual. You need to take an oath, which back in the day used to mean something, right? But nowadays, people just believe words or vacuous pieces of, again, phonology. They don't believe it actually means anything because of that whole postmodern subversion. And yeah, you're absolutely right about that, Play. You do need to take an oath to become a citizen, just like you need to take an oath to join the military. And yeah, oftentimes people just don't pay attention to it.
But it's important for us to remember that which means that if it's to be, it's up to me. That is a very sacred teachings of our Dene. And it deals with the idea of our making choices. And we have always to understand that there are two types of choices we can make, right or wrong, left or right. But it is, we've had 250 years to review these things and to learn about them and to learn it in an honest way. If we have a question, we have lots of people we can ask. And I know that sometimes we may not approve of a lot of things that we seem to see going on. But it is always ours, our responsibility, our individual responsibility. There's no way that we can blame anybody. It is our choice. Are we going to be Americans? Are we going to be a Dene? It is always our choice. And so it is that we'll be celebrating here the idea of liberty, freedom, and living in the home of the brave. It takes a lot of courage to do the things that we need to do, and it has been the example set for us all the way back from the very beginning.
I will say about the making choices thing. Hold on. Kionano says you learn about that in middle school. But most kids learn nothing in school. Yeah, exactly. Right. Again, everyone was asleep at the wheel for the education system, and again, this is the logical consequences of that. But about the making correct choices, right? Even the founders in their wisdom actually understood that they didn't actually know all the answers, and they also knew that some of the things that they were doing were compromises with evil that would have to be undone over time, right? You can read the works of Frederick Douglass, right? Talk about the Constitution as an anti-slavery document. And yeah, because there actually is, a lot of the founders did not like slavery, obviously, right? So they left in little nudges within the text itself and little mechanisms to undo the practice in future times because they couldn't do it at that time, right? And yes, that self-correcting mechanism, specifically in the ability to amend the Constitution, is still particularly useful. We've actually had a number of proposed U.S. amendments that even made it all the way up to Congress that were shot down that would have actually helped us in a lot of the things that we're currently dealing with right now. For example, right, my favorite one that got shot down was an amendment that basically made it to where any amendment proposed to the United States Constitution would have had to have been a single subject, which would have been clearly outlined in detail in the title proposed to the Congress to ratify, right? That would have meant that it would have been impossible to sneak pork or any of these nested bad ideas that you have in these large pieces of legislation in there. And Congress took one look at that and was like, nah, Nope, not happening. We're not ratifying this shit. We get too many kickbacks from again pork in these in the legislative process. Not fucking happening. And there's just so many examples of this. So it's like, it's not like we can't. We've amended the Constitution before. We probably need to do it again real soon about a number of things. But you know, Keanu says it's mostly because it's taught dryly and not engaging at all. Most don't learn until after school and something that interests them. That's for all school subjects. I mean, that's true, but it's also because school is more, especially nowadays, more of a demoralization tactic, right? It was originally designed. The school system that we have now was originally designed by the Prussians to make good factory workers and soldiers, right? And to that extent, it actually works just as planned. But yeah, as opposed to like we get to make decisions like yeah, he's entirely right. This is the libertarian ethic of if you choose not to decide, you have still made a choice, right? This is why I can't stand the whole like I just want to grill people, and it took Kershaw way longer than it should have to realize that I just want to grill are the enemy. They are the people who are making this all possible, right? Because the people who want to just grill won't actually stand up for their right to grill, right? They will just like suffer infinite fucking humiliation because they don't have the spine to actually stand up and stand for something. And if you actually have the spine to stand up and do something about it, you're the bad guy because you're causing discontent. Yes, it's the whole joke about, yes, I'm X, but I would never disagree with Y, right? That's literally every I just want to grill person I've ever met in my life, to be perfectly honest. Yes, I just want to grill, and I agree with you on this right issue, but I would never agree with the left if they ever got what they wanted. It's like, God, I can't. Asleep at the Wheelers. That's all fucking I wanted to grill people are, but he's entirely right? It's like we all get to make daily decisions about who we are as a person, and then we get to make, whenever the time comes, decisions about who we're going to be in the culture, right? Keanu says, I'm not even touching the nonsense of city schools. Yeah, yeah. Let's see. God damn it, Boo Huckley. But yeah, so it's like that whole thing of like we get to decide who we are too, right? And he made that point earlier. It's like, am I going to be American? Am I going to be Dene? Dene, by the way, is like what the Navajo call themselves. But yeah, that's entirely the thing, right? Am I going to be, for example, I'm going to use myself as an example, right? Am I going to be an American, or am I going to be a Texan, or am I going to be Hispanic, right? Now, I could say all of the above, right? I could say I'm going to be an American, and I'm going to be Hispanic, and I'm going to be a Texan, right? I'm going to have a nested loyalty. Well, ultimately, my loyalty belongs to one of the entities, either Texas or the United States, even though I have a particular cultural identity, and I'm not going to betray my cultural identity, but I'm still going to back Texas and America as the, again, as the, like, rightful nation that I'm a part of, right? And that's a decision you have to make. And a lot of people don't do that, especially after the intersectional idea of like interlocking systems of oppression and interlocking identities of oppression. Yeah, that stuff that was designed to make you no longer an American, no longer a like Texan, but now you're primarily black, or now you're primarily white, or now you're primarily Asian, right? Your shared state and supranational identity like the United States no longer means anything anymore, because those are part of the interlocking system of oppression, and it's your ever more marginalized, closer to atomized identities that become, again, the primary thing, because those are the things you're quote-unquote oppressed for, right? So again, being an American in a very real sense is a active decision you actually have to make, right? Is my identity going to be primarily based in that, again, being an American or a Texan, or is it going to be based on my race or my sexuality or my gender, right? Or sex, as it would be, actually, because gender is a fake construct when you're talking about human beings and not grammar classes. Is it going to be any of that stupid shit, or is it going to be in something that actually is like something that they can unite and cause harmony, right? And the post-Marxian influence, yeah, They went for ever increasing atomization, right? They went for again creating that perpetual revolution, whereas the conservative in general, right? The class, traditional conservative, or again the harmony-minded person is going to be like, nah, nation and state are the ones that are going to be your primary identity, because those are the things that can actually help to create a shared sense of identity to get everyone stabilized and on the same page. Play Astronomical says, part of it, the teachers themselves undermine the importance of these things. When I was in school, many teachers made it their purpose to make sure students felt nothing positive for America. Exactly, right? And that is another thing is, again, this is why I'd like, again, like we have a lot to thank to our elders for giving us the good things. We have a lot to complain about, though, for leaving us all these bad things, right? Like, it wasn't the Gen Xers who noticed this. It wasn't the Boomers who noticed this. It took until the millennial generation for anyone to figure out that this stuff was going on, apparently. And then it took all the way to the Zoomers for no one to still do anything about it, right? They removed phonics from teaching reading in schools. Right? The express purpose of that. Okay, it's not the express purpose. It is the functional purpose. But the functional purpose of that is to destroy people's literacy rate, right? To isolate them from their greater culture. But that being said, that's a concept for another video, right? Doctor of Insanity says, I have to fight for the right to be my rightful my rightful ethnic. What a whack job. What? Okay. Boo Huckley says snacks and identity. Fair. Kianella is like, I'm proud to be an American. Yeah, you should be, right? America has done a lot of bad things, but America's done a lot of good things too, right? It turns out, like, the bad things don't obliterate the good things, right? Let's see. Kianella says all countries have done bad things, but that doesn't negate their... Exactly, right? Boo Huckley says going cold turkey while hooked on phonics. God damn it. But I swear to God, if you have cousins... or like nieces and nephews that are going to school right now, get them hooked on phonics, because again, if the schools aren't going to teach them how to read, you can still help them learn how to read, right? But yeah,
it took courage for whoever set sail to come to this continent, and it takes courage to be able to build a society. It takes courage in that to live up to the things that are right and good. And
yeah, because you have to eat the cost, right? If you're going to be the one to actually go out and sail the sea to find new lands, you're the one who ends up eating the cost if you gamble incorrectly, right? It's the same thing if, like, you set up a city like Roanoke, right? The whole famous idea, constantly the whole famous lost, city of Roanoke, right? Where it's like, yeah, they ate the cost. They gambled. The gamble didn't pay off. They disappeared. Right? It takes courage to be the first frontierman, right? It's going to take courage for the first people to be frontiermen on Mars or Venus or on Ganymede, right? Or on Alpha Centauri. Those are going to be truly brave men too, because again, they're going to eat the cost. There's going to be no one who can come help them when they finally go do that, but it's still a task worth doing, right? And yeah, it also turns out that, like, you're going to eat the cost by doing the right thing when, again, the Marxists control culture, right? The whole thing with cancel culture that we all remember, right? Again, people losing their jobs over having wrong think, right? You don't think that people really shouldn't be concerned about the fact that they're going to lose their job, right? No, of course they should. Anyway, yeah, of course they should, because again, that's the way that they support themselves. It's the way they support their family. Of course it's going to be a major way of, like, pressuring someone by, again, threatening their livelihood. But it takes courage to be the one to actually stand up and say, no, absolutely not, to plant your feet and tell the world, no, you're the one who gets to move, right? Anyway, yeah, let's see, OAF Con Queso says, so many want to condemn the U.S., but when asked why they do not leave, they have no educated answer. Yeah, and again, it's that revealed preference versus stated preference, right? It's like, oh, I hate this country. Okay, there's almost 200 others to pick from, right? Which one do you want to go to? And then all of a sudden, they just fucking stammer at it, because it's like they don't really... Again, they just want to bitch and moan. They don't actually have any beliefs. JD Republic says you need a core loyalty above all else. Yeah, I mean, that's especially if you're going to live in a society, right? There's going to be a core loyalty above all else. Like, my core loyalty is very specifically to the state of Texas, right? But that being said, I also understand that like the Texians and the Tejanos, right? The people who actually fought the Mexican-American War fought that war so they could be American, right? Now, my thing is like, again, if Texas has to leave the United States, I don't want that to happen. Let's be perfectly clear about that, right? I'd rather save the country. But if push came to shove, secession is on the table for me. I would prefer divisionism first because Texas did join the State of the Union with the express promise that it could break itself apart into 5 states without the consent of Congress, which Congress, I can guarantee you, would never like actually abide by. But again, it does potentially give a bargaining chip prior to secession. But if worst came to worst of it, like again, I'm not exactly, I'm not opposed to it, right? I'd rather Texas secede than be part of a United States if it falls to communism, for example, right? But I'd also rather we all like fight like hell to make sure that doesn't happen in the first place, right? So, yeah, but you know, that's just a Texan disposition to me, right? Let's see. Teachers are actively discouraging sounding out words. Stupid, but like you said, they are deliberately handicapping children. Oh yeah, no, they're absolutely doing this. And in fact, actually, if you ever get to read some of the foundational texts when it comes to like the rejection of phonics, the idea is that writing is intrinsic in human nature. It's like, no, it's not. Absolutely no, it's fucking not. Only a few times in the history of man has writing ever actually been invented, right? Like the Sumerians invented it around the same time that like the fucking Egyptians invented it, and they did so with very different means. The Chinese invented writing of their own, right? So that's 3 different occasions. The Indians invented their own writing system with the Harappan civilization. So that's 4 times, most of which were around the same time anyway, right? So 3 of those 4 basically happened at the same time. Then you had like the invention of writing in Mesoamerica, and that's about it. That's it. Those are the only times writing seems to have ever actually been invented, more or less from scratch, to be perfectly honest, right? 5 times in the almost 2 million years of human beings being on Earth. Because I'm going to be perfectly honest, when I say human beings, I'm including Homo erectus in there, because I don't think that there's a good argument for having Homo erectus be a different species than anatomically modern humans, right? I just don't buy the argument. Conventional evolution. I mean, right? Convergent evolution. Yeah, basically, yeah. It's also entirely possible that, like, again, just because, like, these places were in trade with each other, that maybe it only developed, like, again, maybe 3 times, right? It may have been that, like, again, one of these ancient civilizations developed writing, and then more or less the other 2 civilizations developed it in response to figuring out you could put words onto, again, clay or papyrus, or you carved into, wood, or, so it's entirely possible it only actually developed maybe 3 times, but we can't know because of how close the Harappan, cuneiform and Egyptian systems developed in relation to each other, right? So it is absolutely not intuitive. In fact, when the Amerindians were exposed to writing, it took over a decade for Sequoyah, who is the man who invented the Cherokee syllabary, to invent a writing system for the Cherokee, because he realized how important it was that they could write down their story, to write down their language, right? And it still took the man over, like, I think it was like more than 10 years to devise something that could actually work for the Cherokee people. And looking at the Cherokee syllabary, like, as an outsider just looking at it, it's not that complicated of a system, to be perfectly honest. It's actually pretty easy to understand, to get a hand of the Cherokee syllabary. But that's from someone from a literate culture looking at another literate culture, newly literate culture's writing system, right? As someone, if you were trying to invent writing from the ground up with no basis beforehand, right, it would be way fucking harder. That's why, like, again, almost every writing system that actually starts from scratch starts as a logographic system, right? A system of pictures that is, eventually corresponds to spoken words. And there's a lot of interesting things about, like, ancient languages. Like, determinatives are, like, my favorite factoid to talk about when it comes to, like, Egyptian and Sumerian writing, but that's neither here nor there. I'll explain that in a later day. But Kionello says, even then, only the rich knew how to read and write, and was invented, and it was invented for money counting. That's true, except for it wasn't even the rich. Just because you were rich didn't mean you knew how to write. for a large part of history, there were many places where kings couldn't actually read because it was the job of the scribe to read and write. So it was more of a like a role thing. Kevin Eric Snell says so many cultures needed their own Saint Cyril. Yeah, I mean, again, it's where we get the word Cyrillic from, right? It's because the church invented the writing system for Old Church Slavonic, which then became adapted into Cyrillic over time, right? And we got that from, what was it, the Greek alphabet, and then Gothic, right, was invented by the church as well, right, for the Gothic peoples, and it combined runes, Greek, and like the Latin characters. And then you have, like, if you're talking about, like, for again the American tribes, right, you had the Australian Aboriginal syllabics, right, the things that you use in like Inuktitut and what was the other one, like Blackfoot and Cree. That was invented by, if I remember correctly, a Methodist missionary, for the express purpose that the people that he was missioning to could write their own stories down, pass on, what would you say, reliably pass down traditions from, to the future, but also to write the Bible, right? So it's like, again, Play Astronomical says, let's see, how far would your loyalty go? Say Texas has some California level shifts and you have to remain mostly the same. You find yourself in a Texas you cannot recognize. Would your loyalty shift? That's actually a really good question, and that's a question that very well could be the case if we don't get the immigration issue solved, because one of the main points of, again, allowing the porous border is to eventually have Texas flip to a purple and then a blue state. So you actually raise a really good point. Now, my thing is, again, my family line goes all the way back to the foundation of Texas, right? I'm actually descended from people who fought at the Battle of the Alamo. So, yeah, and not the Texians, the actual Tejanos, right? Some of my ancestors are some of the few recorded, from the Spanish-speaking side on the Alamo side. But, I digress. So I would rather fight like hell to try to save Texas. But, there is that point where you have to realize that maybe the project of saving a particular project is not actually that possible. So hypothetically speaking, right, if Texas were to fall to communism and then America were to decide to be like actually a livable country, I might have to defect to the United States. It's just, pragmatically speaking, sometimes it's not worth dying for an ideal, right? Play Astronomical says, because opinions vary. Those in California who are trying to birth the state of Jefferson, etc., come to mind. Yeah, that's not happening, but I get what you're saying. Kionella says, wasn't Latin before Greek? No. Okay, so the Greeks developed writing on their own, okay? And they developed it from so the way that works is the Egyptians developed writing, okay? And then over time, the peasants do learn that certain letters, certain symbols correspond to certain sounds, right? And so they, instead of using it as like an image system, they use it as a sound system. That eventually gets simplified, and we get Phoenician from that, the Phoenician script. The Phoenician script is also where we eventually get the modern Hebrew alphabet. But when the Phoenicians, because they were a seafaring people, made contact with the Greeks again re-encountered writing. They actually did have writing before that, the Mycenaeans, but during the Dark Age of the Greek Dark Age, everyone actually legitimately forgot how to read. We still can't read certain Greek Mycenaean writings. But they saw the general sound correspondences, and they modified the Phoenician writing to their own purposes. That eventually gets transmitted over to the Italian peninsula, to the Etruscans, and eventually becomes the Latin characters. So the Greeks do precede the Latins in terms of like illiterate culture twice over, actually, because they had their own writing system and then they forgot it, and then they borrowed a writing system and adapted it from the Phoenicians. Texas fall to communism. Laugh. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, just someone 1038. I'm giving a wildly absurd hypothetical. Is that going to happen? No. But like in theory, if that were to happen, it's like, yeah, I could see myself, if that was like completely a lost cause, defecting from Texas and going to the United States, right? In that situation.
It is cowardly, sad, and that to push all of this that has happened and has been done aside and say, let's find different something. There is no other different. There's only one liberty. There's only one freedom. There is only one place to have that, and that's here in the United States of America. We'll be celebrating, and I will celebrate. I will salute the flag. One thing that we've done.
I mean, again, entirely based, right? His entire point here is that, like, this is my country. My people have been here since time immemorial, right? But at the same time, he's like, these are my people as well, right? He's not just talking about the Dene. He's talked about this beforehand, and he even mentioned this in the video, right? But that, like, he is an American, right? That's why he joined the U.S. military, is because he is an American. And as a result, he has an obligation, in some sense, right? To a role to his fellow American. And yeah, he's absolutely right about that, right? It's like, now I'm of the opinion that the tree of liberty needs to occasionally be watered with the blood of tyrants, right? That being said, that is more of a jurisprudential question, because I think the United Kingdom might very well be at that moment of the tree of liberty may need some watering, but yeah, that's probably why they didn't release a lot of the Epstein files. Partly because, again, there's probably not a very clear delineation who's actually a client and who's just some random fucking name on some of these files. But that being said, again, if they ever released the names of the people on those, that were actually his clients, it might be a tree watering situation then, eh? Let's see. Kevin Eric Snell says, serves him right. The sea peoples ruining everybody's lives in the Bronze Age. They were probably closer to the Greeks than the Phoenicians, right? Kiel says, oh, wait, you're talking about the Dark Age. Yeah, you're right. Kiel says, language evolution is more crazy than humans. Yeah. Kuro says, if it's not a muscle mommy, Kuro, don't want none. Wait, what are we talking? God damn it, Kuro.
Kind of forget is there's an American culture. Probably some people might associate it with the American dream, but always it is that there is a culture there. But also over here among our Dene, there is a culture. There is a way to take the best from the Dene culture and the American culture and take the good from both of them, because that's the way it is. There's some cultural aspects that are good over here and some good cultural aspects that are good over here. But there's also bad cultural ways and bad cultural ways in both. And so you have to be very careful on selecting and choosing the type of portion of the culture that you can use in your life to do the good things you want to do for yourself, so you can have joy, happiness, confidence, and peace.
Yeah, he has a point there. That, like, the thing that... So this is one of the things that conservatives sometimes struggle with, right? Is that... and it depends on what kind of conservative. Because some conservatives understand this and other conservatives do not. So it depends on where in the spectrum conservatives you are, right? But you can't just be hardline conservative, but you also can't be hardline novelist either. And by novelist, I mean, like, novelty worship. And the reason why is very simple. Because newness for its own sake is completely meaningless, right? Just because something is new doesn't mean it's any good. And just because something has been done since time immemorial does not necessarily mean it's the right way to do things, right? Like, let's be fair, drinking cow piss is, a practice from time immemorial for some cultures. And to be perfectly honest, it's probably not a practice you need to keep up with, right? I'm just putting that out there, right? For generations, certain cultures have been wiping their ass with their left hand or a stone. We have better ways of doing that now. Just saying, we have better ways of doing that now, right? Sometimes novelty is good, but sometimes, again, the traditions since time immemorial do solve problems that have been problems since time immemorial and would actually be a problem again if you let go of that tradition. And sometimes it turns out that some people have better solutions to those problems than you may have yourself, right? So it turns out that the cultures themselves are subject to evolution. That is actually just the nature of cultural development itself, right? And yeah, being able to adapt and improve yourself over time through cultural adaptation is actually really important to the long-term survival of a people. Because let's be fair, if you were to check the culture of, for example, let's say the Old English, right, and compare it to the culture of the Victorian, they're going to be very fucking different, right? It's the same. It's ultimately speaking, more or less the same people, right? And let's ignore the Normans. But anyway, ignoring the Normans, right? It's more or less the same people. There's a continuity from point A to point B that is real, but the cultures would be in many respects completely unrecognizable. And that's not to say that being new is better or being old is better, right? The fact of the matter is the better is that which better conforms to reality as it is, right? And which better concretizes the happiness of man, because that's ultimately what we're looking for, right? It's like life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And by happiness, they mean eudaimonia specifically. They don't just mean vacuous happiness. They mean goodness of spirit. That's what eudaimonia means. That's what the whole purpose of the American project is. That's what the purpose of liberty is, those things. Anyway, oh god, hold on, I got a little to catch up with. I just talked about that. Yeah, so just someone 1038, I just talked about that. I said that divisionism, which is what you're referring to, right? The idea that like Texas can break itself apart without consent of Congress into like five, it's actually 5 states, not 4. But yeah, I think that that's a better like first thing than secession, because I don't want to secede from the Union. But also, if it would be better to save the United States to break Texas into 5 separate states, theoretically possible, I would be totally for that. And it is something that was a part of the promise in the joint resolution to annex Texas in the first place, right? And Congress never abrogated that. So it is, in theory, something we could do. Pragmatically speaking, Congress would go tell us to go fuck ourselves, but then that gives us an argument for saying, see, they don't, they don't abide by their by their own principles, so we're just going to leave. In which case, we could use that as a leveraging tool for that as well. So, but yes, you are correct. We actually do have that. It's not in our Constitution. It's actually in the joint resolution that accepted Texas in the Union in the first place. Texas used to own Colorado, a tiny part of Wyoming. That is the craziest part of American history I've read. Fair. Eric Snell says, I know he's saying Dene like Navajo, but I keep hearing Denis like in the Myst video game. I can't help you there. Let's see. Kura says, you can take the good from both cultures, but integration is far more an important thing to first happen before they can truly happen. I mean, yeah, obviously, right? There is going to be a core substrate that cannot change for a culture, right? We're talking about like ultimately accidental, components, not the essential components. Because if you change the essence of a thing, well, the thing dies, right? And what is the essential component of the United States, right? Well, the essential core creed of the United States is encoded in the Declaration of Independence. It is literally the founding document of the United States as a culture and people, right? It gives us the very basis by which we had the authority to leave the British Empire. So that part would be like non-negotiable, right? Because if it's not that, breeds tribalism, which is not good. That's a divide. Yeah. JD Republic says the Normans ruined England. Stupid French language invasion. Boy, do I have something to tell you. There's a project called English to purge English of all of its French influence, right? Although it is funny that some French words entered English twice under different pronunciations, and that there's a lot of interesting things about that.
I think another thing that we forget is that Native people understood liberty. It is so very important to allow people to speak their mind. It is so very important for people to believe what they want to believe. And it's so very important to pursue the things that you think will bring you joy and happiness, confidence, and peace, and to do it in the way that you understand it. And I think that Native people understood that. And so they appreciated and expressed gratitude for the environment that was given to them by the holy people, by the Great Spirit. And it is that We have it. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. And it is the only home that we have. I have a lot of faith in this country and its people. We the people. I love this country because in it is a Navajo nation. And I love my people.
And again, yeah. It's an old Catholic idea of chivalry, right? Hello, Captain Rudy. It's a old idea in Catholic chivalry codes, right? The idea that you are actually obliged to be a patriot. That doesn't mean you gotta, again, agree with everything your country does, but you do have to love your country and you have to love your people, right? And by love country and people means, like, again, act in the best interest of the country and the people, right? Don't just, like, if there's something to vote on, for example, that would benefit you but screw over everyone else, it is an ethical obligation for you to not do that, right? Then you don't even have to be an altruist to understand this. You can be entirely selfish and understand this, right? The idea that, again, I won't ask you to live for my sake, but at the same time, I will not stand to be asked to live for your sake either, right? So, even from like a purely selfish, ethic, you could still uncover this particular idea. Kuro says, remove French impressions on the English language. Hell yeah, shouldn't be hard for it to surrender. Damn. But Old English was a beautiful language. I'm not a big fan of Romance languages, but I was trying to be silly there. That's fair. All right. Yeah, there's a... Oh god, there's a lot of them.
Hey, thanks for watching our videos. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss one of our uploads. Also, head over to our website, NavajoTraditionalTeachings.com. Sign up for our email list. Okay.
Agreed. So if you like what you just saw, I would suggest subscribing to Navajo Traditional Teachings. I listen to them quite frequently. I enjoy listening to the gentlemen, actually just talk about history, about, again, the Navajo culture. And I didn't really have much to add in this particular video. In the last video, I had a lot more to add, right? But it had a lot to do with things that I thought needed much more expanding upon. But yeah, this was more or less straightforward, and I couldn't find any place to disagree, and there wasn't really a lot of things I could add to it because it was just like simple, straight to the point, completely correct. So, oh yeah, I watch him too. All right, so that'll be it for this episode, and hopefully that was transformative enough, right? Because I don't want to be just taking content and not like adding something actually useful for it. Hold on. Just someone 1038 says people generally believe in a hierarchy of importance: self, family, tribe, so forth. I wonder if the adaptability of the American government as an idea challenges religion for the top spot. So I'm not entirely sure. It would depend on how you define a religion. I would, for example, define Marxism as a religion, for example. Especially as patriotism is a big deal in America. Yeah, but in the case of like the hierarchy of ideals thing, most people in the United States who are like religious, if you really, really push them, they'll pick their religion over their country. And that's not just America. That's a lot of people. A lot of people will pick their religion over their country, right? Because the religion thing kind of is that higher value, like of a hierarchy of importance, because you're talking about the most fundamental things. And ultimately, a nation and a country would be a derivative thing, not a fundamental thing. But, yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to end the actual episode, right?